All right, everybody, step 5. This is where we put them through the stress test. The stress test is designed for the client to build their own product. It's the coolest thing in the world. The point is that I share with them, guys, you built the best plan possible. When they come in, I just say, hey, did you guys get a chance to talk about it? And they say yes. If they have any objections, we handle those. If they have any concerns, we handle those. And those are, look on the library. There's all the objections on how to handle those. So we made it through the objections, and they're all good. They are always good after you answer, because after you've shown them how to build a plan and you proved it, they're in. It doesn't matter. So mom and dad, you built the perfect plan. Now, this is what I would do. What I want you to do is tell me, is it your plan? I want you to take ownership. We built it together, but this is what I would do. Now tell me that it's what you would do. And they say, it is what we would do, John, we're comfortable with all of it. Good. Do you know every product that's available? Because we've got to put this beautiful, perfect plan that you built, that you own, into a product. But do you know every product? No, we don't. And I said, I know you don't. So why don't you tell me what it is that would be like the perfect product? What do you think a perfect product is? Meaning, why don't you give me some attributes of it? And we're going to put this in a test. We're going to call it the stress test. And I write stress test up on the board. And then we go through and they tell me all the attributes of what they want. And then the key part to this is, well, how many of these things up here? And you don't have to have very many. I put 3 or 4. That's it. 3 or 4 things. Mom and dad, do any of these things just not matter? Like, you know what, no, I was just kidding. Let's erase that one. And they say no. And I say, okay, good. I want you to rate each one of the 4. On a scale of 1 to 100, I want you to tell me, mom and dad, I want you to each to tell me on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 meaning that is definitely something we want as an attribute. And the mom gives me an answer, the dad gives me an answer, and I write the average down. I kind of sometimes now I just say, Dad, what do you want? Mom, what do you want? And they almost every single time say 100, so I just write 100. And I do that for each of the 4. And then I use this line. So, Mom and Dad, here's what you're telling me. Wherever we put the $79,000 and the $54,000 a year, whatever product it is, it has to have these 4 attributes. That's what you're saying, right? And so one of them is going to be, it has to be financial aid free, that it doesn't get counted against them in financial aid. And the federal government says if you put it into a qualified retirement account, cash value life insurance, a Roth IRA, or an annuity, it's exempt, and write those 4 down there. And then I go through here, as you watched already in the previous videos, but you'll see it again in this clip. We go through and write down all the different products that are available. And they have to be in the order that we put them. Qualified accounts, cash value life insurance, Roth IRA, annuities, stocks and mutual funds, bonds, savings accounts, college savings accounts, 529s. And the reason we put them in that order is the way that it works out. We want them to think that it's going to be annuities. That's where the money's going. In fact, we are going to use an annuity. That's for their retirement account, their IRA that they currently have the $310,000 in. But what's going to happen is that we just go through and say, so if we put the money in there, does this have, is it FAFSA free? If we put the money into this vehicle, is it guaranteed to grow? If we put it into this vehicle, is it guaranteed against loss? And you go through here at the end, you're writing a little why or no for each of the 5 questions. Here's the cool part. At the end, there will always only be one option available. And if they want to talk about it, you write a Y for yes. If they don't want to talk about it, you write an N. And then you start from the bottom and say, are you going to use 529s? No, let's erase it. Are you going to use a bank account, say a CD? No, erase it. Are you going to use a bond? No, erase it. Are you going to use stocks and mutual funds? No, erase them. Are you going to use an annuity? And that's where I say, well, we are going to use an annuity, but the annuity is going to be just for the IRA. And we'll take care of that as well, right after we get done with this. And at the end, they get to, the only thing that's left up there is cash value life insurance. And so one of the things that I say to them is this: how is it that you built the perfect product, and we went through everything that you have money in, and the only product you don't have is cash value life insurance, and it's the only one you said you want to use by virtue of the stress test that you built? The product that you wanted to use your entire life is the only one you don't have. Why is that? Why didn't the people that you were working with put your money into this vehicle and be quiet? The answers are astounding. Well, maybe they didn't know about it. Maybe they didn't know that they existed. I don't know. And no matter what they say, just say, you know what? They know it exists. But the question is, if they never built you a plan to get you from now until dead to pay for everything and have a secured retirement, remember the question: when you get advice, is it always in your best interest? You built your own plan. It works wonderfully. We already proved it. You built your own product. It works exactly what you wanted. They had 5 years or 10 years or 15 years of working with you, and they never did any of those things. Why? You built the perfect product. They don't have that in your portfolio. Why? Do you know anything about cash value life insurance? And they're going to say, no, we don't know anything. And I say, do you know anything about index universal life insurance? Or do you know anything about whole life insurance? And they're going to say no. And so I go over and I grab off my shelf that book I showed you, the life insurance book by Jake Thompson. And I say, guys, I need you to read this book. 60 pages long, take you an hour. What I want you to do is go home, and investigate this and read up on it. But do you guys know anything about whole life insurance right now? Have you ever heard anything about it, or IULs? Is there anything that you want to ask me right now? And it's pretty amazing. A majority of them literally just don't know anything at all. And so if they say no, I say, great, guys, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home and rip this thing apart. And when you come back in, we're going to come back in the next 2 days. I want to answer all your objections, and we're going to, life insurance, it's obviously the vehicle you want to use. You have to qualify. So we're going to put in applications to make sure that you qualify to be able to put your funds in there. And I'll teach you how to use it and how it all works. So I want you to go home, Google whole life insurance. You're going to see like 1.8 million pages. 800,000 of them are going to be people that hate life insurance. 1 million are people that love life insurance. Who do you think hates life insurance? And let them answer. They'll tell you the broker. And I'll say, yep. Who do you think loves it? And they'll say, the clients, the ones that are using it. And I said, yep. Who would you rather listen to? The guy that didn't give you advice in your best interest for the last 10 years and build you a plan and use this product you wanted, or the people that are using it already? They're probably all my clients, by the way. So one of the things that's really cool is let them go and do whatever they want. If they want to ask you questions, go to the library and start learning about the objections, how to handle them. But if they don't want to learn anymore, here's where we advisors get into trouble. I am wickedly smart in this stuff, but you cannot overeducate your clients if they don't want to be overeducated. Don't feel the need to teach them everything you know, because 90% of them don't care. All they know is that you built them a plan, it works, and we're going to put it in life insurance. Tell me what we need to do next is what they say. Well, we fill out the applications, we put it in there, and we'll go over that too. So that's really it. The stress test is the crescendo. And after that, you schedule the third appointment, the last appointment. If they say they're ready to go right now, take the applications. A huge amount of people will say that they're ready to go. But the ones that aren't, don't force them. It's okay. If you're going to make $20,000 commission, it's okay if they come back in for the third appointment, because then you're averaging about $6,000 an hour. It's not bad. So what I want you to do is just be patient with them, because you're going to get a client for life. You're not going to get one sale. You're going to get multiple sales. They're going to give you the life insurance, their 401k rollovers. They're actually going refer their parents to you, and when their kids get their jobs, they'll have their kids come in. I have 3 to 4 generations of clients that I have. So they have all of them. Don't try to push anything. Let them go home, research it, and when they come back, handle the objections, get the applications, and that's when it happens. So thank you very much. Watch the rest of the video and see how it all plays out, because you will love it. And keep going until you learn it. It's very simple. If you haven't already been to boot camp, go to boot camp. There's always a boot camp going on the schedule, which means you come on in for a few days, and we go immense immersion training. And it's a 3-day training. And when you get done, you are an expert, and you go out and sell immediately. So happy selling. Change your clients' lives, because when you change your clients' lives, it changes your life. So thank you, and that's it.
Hi everybody, welcome back. John Dalt here with 360 Life Planning. Today we're going to go on a journey for the financial solution. In our first major video, the large one, that's called the Financial Discovery. In that video, what we did is we took a client from coming into the office, explaining what it is that they wanted to happen in their lives. We actually went through, showed them a solve. We showed them the 360 life circle of what it is that they've done, where they're going, and why don't they have a plan. We went through step 3, which is to build the plan, and that's when we put everything, that's this right here. When we went through and rearranged everything, and that's step 3. Step 4 was going through improving it. That's where we put all the money over here, and that's where we end the first appointment. In this appointment, this is called the Financial Solution, the second appointment. This is a lot shorter appointment, but this is where the real magic occurs for the client. This is where it all comes together. And for you, the advisor, this is what we call step 5. It's really, really simple. So without further ado, I'm going to take it right from when a client comes in, and I'm going to role play it there's really no people here, but I'm going to role play it as I would with a client in front of me. And when you're done, you'll understand completely how this whole thing comes together, and how it works and why it works so beautifully with a client. So today is called Financial Discovery Part 2, the solution. So without further ado, here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Client, thanks for coming back in. I really appreciate you being here. And one of the very first things I do is ask you a couple of questions, as we did in the first appointment. So we're going to ask you a lot of questions again today. So the first one is, when you left, we took a picture of the board, and you brought that home, and I gave you a homework assignment. I asked you to, I wanted you to talk about the board, and I wanted you to talk about, what if what John was showing really did work for us? And if it did work for us, how would that make us feel? And really what I wanted you to do was to really start communicating with each other about your finances. So did you talk about what it is that we did on the board, and did you guys talk about it? And I will assure you of this, 100% of the time, they say, oh yeah, we talked about it a lot. And so then I say, good, what happened? What did you talk about? What did you like about the plan? What did you not like about the plan? And what's really awesome, they will tell you exactly what they liked about the plan. And there are areas where they, like, gosh, we're really just not sure or understood, this part or this part. And take the time to go through here at that point, and you just go up and you start figuring out, and you give them the rebuttals that they're looking for. And in subsequent videos, you'll see those. I go through every possible objection that a client could have at that moment, and then I teach you in these other videos of how to easily handle objections, to turn those objections into actually another selling feature where the client will say, gosh, that makes sense. That really reinforces why we should do this plan. So we take the objections and we turn those into another selling feature. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I appreciate that, and we've gone through and we handled all the objections that you gave me. And so the client's given their objections, we've covered those, and now we just say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this is really important. This right here, and on the paper that I gave you and that you took home, this is exactly what I would do if I were you. Is there anything up here that you just aren't going to do? Because what I want to do is to make sure that this is all the stuff that you agreed that we could look at hypothetically, But I want you to tell me, is it okay to move forward with what we've discussed? And this is where it's really fun. We've handled the objections, and then we ask that final closing statement. Is it okay if we move forward with this as your plan and no longer my plan? And you know what they will say every time? Of course, absolutely, John. Yes, we're excited about it. And if they don't say they're excited about it, literally ask them, are you excited about this plan? And when they say, yes, we're excited about it, you say, good. Now, here's something really cool. You've built an unbelievably wonderful plan. We know it takes you and gets you debt-free. It pays for all the things on your 360 Life Circle, from the kids' college, the weddings, the home improvement, all these different things. We have an exact date for retirement. And one of the things we have to do is we still have to show them how this all works in retirement and how the income comes together. But we do know that the client wanted $1.5 million, and we ended up with $1.8 million in retirement accounts. So we exceeded their expectations. So we know at least that part of it they are excited about. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, you've built the perfect plan. Here's the key part. We need to take this perfect plan and put it into a perfect product, so the product itself with outside variables doesn't ruin your plan. So one of the things that we're going to go through now is we're going to figure out, where do we put this plan? Where should we put this? What product should we put this in so we don't ruin it? And so what I want to do is I want to erase the board, but I want to ask you some questions. Mr. and Mrs. Client, do you know every product, every financial product that's available for you to use? 2, do you know every attribute of every product that's available? And what I mean by the attributes, do you know if it's taxable? Do you know if you can access it? If you access it, is there a penalty? What are the growth features? Is it in the market? Can it have losses? All these different things. Does it have a guaranteed rate of return? Does it grow tax-free? Does it come out penalty-free? Do you have liquidity anytime you want? So these are the things, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I want you to start thinking about. Because what we're going to do now, for me, it's the most fun I get out of this whole process, because you actually get to educate me on what it is that you want to do with your money. And here's how we do that. I want you to tell me, if you could build the perfect product, where to put your perfect plan. What would the product look like? What are the attributes? What would be the guidelines that you would want for it? I'll give you an example. We're going to build what we call a stress test. This stress test is going to have features to it and benefits to it. And what I mean by that are, if you put your money, this is your $79,000 and your $54,000 a year, we have to put that someplace. And where we put that, so the first thing that you were trying to accomplish on your circle was you wanted to pay for your kids' college, right? So you wanted to pay the kids' college. And we know that you had hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in that account. Do you want that money visible to be seen in the financial aid formula? Or do you think it would be better for it not to be seen in the financial aid formula? And this is where the clients will go through and say, well, I don't know, what is the benefit of it? And I just go right here and I say, hey, mom and dad, about 5.62% of all of your assets that are not in the financial aid formula count as lost financial aid. So you had about $120,000 in your account at the start of year 2 when your child was going to college. So if you took that, it's somewhere around $6,300. If you don't put your money into a vehicle that takes it out of the financial aid formula, you have the potential to lose up to $6,300 each and every year each of your children are in college. So $6,300 times 4 is like $19,000. You have 2 kids, that's $38,000 that you could lose potentially in financial aid. So should we keep the money out of the financial aid formula, or is it okay for you to have the potential to have to pay that extra amount. What do you think they say? Every single time they'll say, well, we don't want it in the financial aid formula. And I just say, great, you've already got your first attribute. So we go through here and say, we write up here, so what you're telling me is you want it FAFSA free. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's the financial aid forms that everybody has to pay if their kid wants to go to college. So if we want it FAFSA free, the federal government says that you can put your money into a couple different products that keeps it exempt. One, you can put it into qualified retirement accounts. Two, you can put it into cash value life insurance. 3, you can put it into a Roth IRA. Or 4, you can put the money into an annuity. If you have your money in any one of these 4 products, that money doesn't count against you in the financial aid formula. I want you to pay close attention to something. I put qualified first, cash value life insurance, and then I put a Roth, and then I put the annuity. I put those in a specific order because psychologically, the clients will think at that given moment, what product do they think that you're going to push on them right now? Annuity. The last one's always the catch. That's what it is. You're going to try to convince me to use an annuity. I am not going to try to convince them to use an annuity. As a matter of fact, we're not going to try to convince them to use anything. They are going to choose a product, and it's really awesome. So that's their first stress test product or attribute that they want. So number 2, I just say to them, look, tell me anything else about what you might want to have in your attributes or description of a product. Here's an example. You had mentioned many times during our previous appointment that you were really nervous about the market. You were terrified that, remember, you weren't sure if your money would be there in its full entirety, or it might be worth even less than what it is now because of the volatility in the marketplace. So you had mentioned a couple times, if there were a guaranteed product where I could have a guarantee against losses, you would be excited about that. Would that be something that you would like in your stress test? And they say yes, 100% of the time. So I just write guaranteed. Guaranteed, which means no losses, and guaranteed growth. Mr. and Mrs. Client, you want it guaranteed? We want it out of the FAFSA. What's another attribute you would want? We said we wanted to put it into a vehicle that we have cash going into it and cash flow going into it. So where it is, do you think we need to have liquidity? Liquidity means, we need to be able to access it without penalty. We don't need the federal government to charge us a penalty for accessing our own money, right? But you also don't want to take massive withdrawals out of a vehicle that have a taxable event. Is that something that you would want in your vehicle, your product that you built? Oh yeah, John, we need it liquid. So we need liquidity, which means no taxes and no penalties. Okay. So now we have 3 major attributes: FAFSA, guaranteed, and liquidity. What other attributes could you want that would make this a perfect product for you? And so they're going to start thinking, and it doesn't matter what they say. It truly doesn't matter. They could say whatever they want, write it up there. But then, if it's something so outlandish that it doesn't even make sense, just say, are you sure you want that as an attribute? And they'll say, no, that doesn't make sense. A lot of times they'll say they want it available for retirement with no taxes, or to pay for college. And it's kind of a really interesting thing, because the reality is that that's completely redundant of their third attribute, but it doesn't matter. Put it up there. It's perfect. So here's what we do. This is where we find out how serious they are about what they say they want for their perfect plan. This is what they want in the perfect product. So let's make sure that they're really on board. And so we ask them, it's really fun to do this. Mr. and Mrs. Client, you said that you want this money to go into a vehicle, and it has to have the stress test results. So what you're saying is that this money, if it goes into a vehicle, it has to be FAFSA free, meaning it's got to be in one of these products. So you want it out of the financial aid formula. On a scale of 1 to 100, how serious are you? Do you really want it out of the financial aid formula? So give me a number. Mom, on a scale of 1 to 100. 100 means I want it out of it. And Dad, and I want you to give me a number. And they'll both yell out numbers, and typically they say 100. They want it out of the formula. So no matter what, 100% of the time they want it out of the formula. Okay, guaranteed against losses and guaranteed growth. You want a moderate growth and you want a nice guarantee so it doesn't have losses. On a scale of 1 to 100, Mom and Dad, what do you think? Do you want it not to have losses and you want it to have no taxes? No losses and guaranteed growth. How important is that to you on a scale of 1 to 100? And they'll say 100. And then we go down liquidity. No taxes and penalties. We want to access it. And for whatever reason, sometime down here, they're all like, we want it at 100 on all of them, but gosh, we think we should have like something, a lower number. And I'm like, I don't care what your number is. What number do you want? And on this one, we'll say 90. So 90%. And so out of retirement and college, we want to be able to access it without paying taxes. And they say 100. If you really understand what we just did, the plan is done already, right? We already know what product it's going into. They should, but they don't. They can't figure this out, and that's why it's so fun. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, what you're telling me is that whatever vehicle we put this money into, it has to be FAFSA free, 100%. That without equivocation, it has to be there, right? Yes. And you're telling me it has to be guaranteed so there's no losses, and it has to have a guaranteed growth. You're telling me that 100%, that product has to have that attribute. Yes. Liquidity, 90%, you said no taxes, no penalties. That has to be a part of it, correct? Yes. And retirement, no taxes, pay for college, you said 100%. So what you're saying is that if the product doesn't have all of this, we can't use it. Is that what you're saying? And they say yes. Good. Mom and Dad, do you know every product out there? No. Well, do you think we should go through here and look at all the different products? Yes. Good. So watch this. So let's go through here and write all the products up here. Qualified retirement accounts. Qualified retirement accounts, we put them up there because we already know it's FAFSA free. What are they? 401k, 403b, and IRAs. We know that they're in the market. We know that you have to put money into it from your paycheck. You can't just put money into it, so it has to come from your employment to put it into a qualified 401k or 403b. The next one is cash value life insurance. Cash value life insurance, otherwise known as permanent life insurance, the attributes of it are this. You can put as much money into it as you want. It can come into it and go into it post-tax money. The money that goes in there, the money is guaranteed against loss and it is guaranteed to grow. The cool part about it is that in cash value life insurance, you can pull the money out. It doesn't count taxable for you the way that you structure it, and you don't have to pay penalties. So those are the attributes for that. So a Roth IRA, listen to the way I say this. The Roth IRA is, in my opinion, the best government vehicle ever created. The Roth IRA, Mom and Dad, do you know what a Roth IRA is? Do you understand all the attributes? And they say, well, I'm like, well, you have one right now. You have a Roth, you're putting in a couple $100 into it, you have $9,000 into it. But when we were discussing it, there were some things that you didn't know. You didn't know that all of it wasn't under the same guidelines as what an IRA is, and that was something that you found surprising that you didn't understand that. To me, a Roth IRA is one of the greatest products ever. But are there limitations to what you can put into a Roth IRA? Do you know what those limitations are?
So if you're under, it changes every year. So this current year, I think you can put in up to $6,000 if you're under 50, and if you're over 50, you can put in $7,000 into it. That's the maximum contribution. That's why when I say it's one of the best government vehicles ever created, but it's horrible what they did on the other side of it. And the reason that they put limitations on it, man, the federal government likes taxes. They love taxes. There's several trillion dollars in qualified accounts. What that means for the federal government is in the future, they know that they're always going to have income coming in from the IRAs and the 401ks and 403bs, because the federal government actually is so smart that you saved in these vehicles, and you might not even need the money from it because you have other money, but the federal government says, nope, 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 at 70 and a half, we're going to force you through MRDs, minimum required distributions. At 70 and a half, you have to take it out of there. Why? Because they want the taxes. Those taxes help feed the federal government. In a Roth IRA, the money goes in post-tax, and if you don't touch it until 59 and a half, you can pull it out tax-free. Problem is, you can only put in $6,000 or $7,000 a year into it. You're never going to have enough in retirement accounts if you just use that vehicle. So as a vehicle by itself, it's a really cool vehicle. It just has some serious limitations. The next one that we look at is an annuity. Okay, annuities are really awesome products. You can put in huge lumps of money. As a matter of fact, remember that IRA you have, that $310,000 and the $37,000 IRA? And I said, hey, where you have it right now, is it guaranteed to be there at retirement? And you said you didn't know because it's in the market. And I said, well, if you could put it into a vehicle to know when you get to retirement how much it was going to be worth, and it was guaranteed against losses, and it was guaranteed to grow, that's a great vehicle. It also has limitations. You can't access the money once it's in there like you could other vehicles where it has full liquidity. So it's a vehicle, but it fits the guidelines of being exempt here. Another vehicle that we use, where else could you put money, Mom and Dad? You could put it into stocks and mutual funds. You could put it into bank accounts, like a CD. You could put it into a 529 college plan, right? What other vehicles do you know of that you can put money into? And guys, it doesn't matter what they say. If they say put it into a mattress, I literally will write mattress up there. If they say that they want to put it into a Hills Brother coffee can and store it in the back room, I don't care where they put their money. We write it up there. John, what do you think if we bought a real estate, an investment property? Write it up there. It's irrelevant. Put it up there because they built their stress test. Their stress test is going to decide where they're actually going to put their money. So for purposes of illustration, this is what we'll leave up there right now. And this is what we do. This is where the magic happens. Mr. and Mrs. Client, you have $79,000. It's post-tax money, and you have $54,000 a year that money has to go into this product of yours. By the very nature of what a qualified vehicle is, can we even put that money into it because it's coming post-tax and it has to be pre-taxed over here? So over here, no, we can't even use it as a vehicle. So let's go through the stress test. If we put this $79,000 and the $54,000 a year into a qualified vehicle, is it FAFSA free? Yes, we know it's FAFSA free because the federal government tells us it's FAFSA free. If we put the money into a qualified vehicle, is it guaranteed against losses and is it guaranteed to grow? No. If we put it into this account, do we have liquidity? Can we take it out whenever we want, whenever we need, and we don't have to pay taxes and we have no penalties? If we put it there, does it meet our stress test? No. And when we get to retirement or for college, can we pull it out without taxes? Well, we can pull it out, but we have to pay taxes no matter what. So no, it doesn't meet our criterion. So for your stress test, for the product that you are looking for, is using the qualified vehicles, 401k, 403b, and IRA, a vehicle that we should discuss further to use as your product? And they will always say no. Just write N, no. It doesn't meet it. So let's go right to cash value life insurance. Cash value life insurance, as we have previously discussed, it can take in any amount of money. So the $79,000 and the $54,000, we know we can put that into it. If we put the money into a into a cash value life insurance product, does it meet the government's exempt status? Yes. So we said we wanted it to be FAFSA free. Is it? Yes. If we put the money into cash value life insurance, is it guaranteed with no losses in it? Does it have guaranteed growth? By the nature of what it is, of course it does. It has those attributes. So if we put the money into the cash value life insurance, does it have liquidity? Meaning we don't have to pay taxes and penalties. And of course, by the nature of what we discussed previously, of course, you can pull it out anytime you want. There's no taxes, there's no penalties, the way that you structure it. So in retirement, can we access it for retirement in college without taxes and penalties? Yes, we can. By the nature of what it is, we know that it has it. As a vehicle to use for your 360 life plan, is it something that we should consider because it meets the criterion of what you set forth in your stress test? Should we talk about it down the road? Yes. Okay, move right along, guys. This is what you do. Don't stop. Don't dwell on it. We know they can see it. They're looking at it going, I don't get it. But they're so bedazzled right now, they don't actually know that that's the product that they're going to look at. They want to see what this Roth IRA is and what this annuity are. So a Roth IRA, mom and dad, we need to put in $79,000 and $54,000 a year post-tax money. This does accept post-tax money, but we have $79,000 and $54,000. We have a maximum of $6,000 and $7,000. Can we even get the money into it? No. We want the money FAFSA free. So if we put your money into a Roth, is it FAFSA free? Of course it is. It's on the federal government guidelines. So yes, it does meet the guidelines. If we put the money into a Roth, does it have a guarantee against losses and does it have a guaranteed growth? Here's what's interesting. Their answer is the answer we always use. So mom and dad, if we put it into a Roth, is it guaranteed to grow and is it guaranteed against losses? They will always, 100% of the time, say no, because where they have it right now, they have it in a mutual fund. It can lose value. It doesn't have a guaranteed growth factor to it. So that's the answer, no. If they put their money into a Roth, does it have liquidity? Can they take it out whenever they want without taxes and penalties? They will tell you the answer, no. Can I use it for retirement and college without taxes? For retirement, yes, and for college, no. So we'll just write maybe. And this is where you use the verbiage. Mr. or Mrs. Client, this is a brilliant product. But for the purposes of what you're trying to accomplish, is it a vehicle? You have 1, 2, 3 no's, a yes, and a maybe. Is it a vehicle we should discuss as your 360 Life Plan product? No. Annuity. Remember, annuity is that vehicle that we said that your current IRAs that you have, we want those in there for retirement. But as a vehicle for the 360 Life Plan, let's go through this, mom and dad. Can we put all this money into the annuity? Here's the cool part. Yes, you can get in the bulk of it, just like you did your IRA rollover, which we'll do later. But for the purposes of this, the money that's going to flow into it on a regular basis, can we get it in there? Yes. There's different ways we can do it. Is it FAFSA free? Yes. Is the money guaranteed against losses and growth? Yes, I just said that we could do it. So that's awesome. Here's where the catchy part is.
Liquidity. Is there taxes and penalties? If you take out of annuity early, there is a penalty. And the federal government says if you take it out, because you're putting qualified funds into it by the very nature, if you take out money before 59 and a half out of qualified vehicles, you're going to have to pay it. So no, it doesn't meet our criterion. Does it have retirement in college, no taxes? Again, it's a maybe. So here's where we go through this process. I look at this and say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it has 3 yeses, a no, and a maybe. And this maybe is really a no, but they had said that they didn't quite for sure understand, but they thought it was a maybe. Does it meet the criterion for your 360 life plan? No, it doesn't, but Mr. and Mrs. Client, we definitely are going to go back and discover and relook at this for the purposes of looking at it for your current IRAs that you have. So as our 360 plan vehicle, no. How about stocks and mutual funds? We know in a stock and a mutual fund, you can put as much money as you want into them. You can keep adding to it. So we know we can get that money into it, right? Is it on here as a FAFSA free? Is it one of the exempt products? No, it's not. And so this is where it gets really, really kind of funny. One of the parents, if not both, will literally say, John, we don't want our money in a stock account. We don't want it in a mutual fund. So no, we don't want to use it. I look right here and I go, well, if that's true for your stocks and your mutual funds, you can write bonds up here. You can put whatever you want, other products. So I just go, you guys, we're going to end up with over $1 million in this account, or almost $2 million when you retire. Do you want that money in a bank account or a CD? Because it doesn't fit everything that you're looking for. Do we want to discuss it? No. Mr. and Mrs. Client, you have a couple kids going to college. You could put this money into a 529, but does it meet everything? Look, here's the funny part. A college vehicle that was created by the government doesn't even have exempt status in the financial aid formula. What a scam. Secondly, it's in the market. It can have huge losses. So as a vehicle, is it something we want to use? No. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, I want to do something now, and with your permission, I'm going to kind of go through something, and I want to erase the vehicles that we don't want to discuss. So guys, this is where this is so fun. Watch this. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, do we want to discuss a 529? No. Do we want to discuss putting the money into a bank CD? No. Do you want to look at the stock market? No. Do we want to look at an annuity? Now, in my humble opinion, an annuity is something we're definitely going to want to use for your IRA. And why do I do this over and over again? Because at the end, when we're doing their planning at the end, getting their applications done, we are going to do the applications for the IRAs so we can capture that as well. But for purposes for the 360 plan, no. Mr. and Mrs. Client, the Roth is a beautiful product. It really is a good product. It's just, it doesn't fit what we're looking for. So can we erase it? Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Client, cash value life insurance, should we use that as a vehicle to at least potentially discuss to use for your 360 plan? And they're going, yeah, but we know nothing about it. I mean, but it does meet everything, it looks like. Good. So we'll leave that up there. Is that all right? Yes. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, qualified accounts. Do we want to discuss that? No. I set down my eraser. I actually will just stand here and I will look at it for a couple seconds. And I will look at this whole thing. I will pull this up here, the picture of what they have right now. And I'll just say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you told me that you wanted a vehicle that had all these attributes, 100%, 100%, 90%, and 100%. No matter where you put it, it had to have all of these attributes.
And the only one that meets 100% of what you're looking for is cash value life insurance. Here's the weird part. In your current structure of everything that you're doing, it's the only vehicle you're not using. And I'm going to ask him another question. If it's the only vehicle you wanted to use, why is it the only one the other advisors didn't put you into? Why is that? And so for you advisors, why is that? You need to understand this. One, it doesn't meet what they've been educated on. If they're an AUM collector, if they're a broker, I've had brokers working for me. Their job is to get assets under management. We, on the other hand, we do something really unique compared to every other planner out there. We teach our clients how to spend their money. But while they're spending their money, they're going to be figuring out where to put the money and have it in a position so when they get to retirement, they know it's going to be there. So the question is this, Mr. and Mrs. Client, when you get advice from other people, is the advice you get always in your best interest? And they always say no. And I just say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you built the perfect plan. That plan will work 100% of the time. And if you put that plan in this vehicle that you built, you told me these are the attributes, and this product existed already. It does exist, and it will always exist. Why isn't your plan already in this vehicle? You have qualified accounts, you have IRAs, you have a Roth, you have a mortgage, you have all these different things, everything that those other planners have. But here's what you didn't have. You didn't have a plan to get debt free. You didn't have a plan on how to pay for everything from now until retirement. You didn't know if when you got to retirement that the amounts that you have right now would grow. You didn't know if they would be the same or they could be less. You didn't know what age you could retire. You didn't know if you could have an income in retirement, and we'll go through that and show you how you're going to have an income greater than 150% of what you were living off the day before you retired for the rest of your retirement with this plan. And when you die, you will have spent all of your money in retirement, and when you die, you would leave an inheritance. Why doesn't your plan that you have currently achieve those things? Why didn't your advisor do that for you? Secondly, why didn't they have it in a vehicle that you wanted? You just told me you wanted it to have all these attributes. This product has been around for 180 years. How come you don't have it? It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. So should we take time to discuss this further? And what do you think they'll say? Yeah, we do. We need to be educated on it. And I'll say, great, I have something for you. I was hoping you would like that. And so what I do with my clients is I have cases of these little books. It's called Money, Wealth, Life Insurance. It's by Jake Thompson. It is literally, and I just show my clients, guys, look, it's 60 pages long. It has life insurance illustrations. It's super big letters. Mr. and Mrs. Client, it's going to take you about 45 minutes to read it. I want you to have this, and I give it to them. And I say, guys, I need you to educate yourself. Here's why I want you to read that book. Because you right now know nothing about the vehicle that you actually built. You told me you wanted it. You told me these are the attributes. It exists. It's called life insurance, cash value life insurance, not term insurance. And it's actually in whole life insurance or indexed annuity life insurance, of which, how much do you know about those? Not a whole lot, I'm presuming. So what I want you to do is read that book. And what we're going to do is just go through and educate you more and more and more. Because what I want to do is educate you to the point where you told me this is what you wanted for a vehicle. You told me these are the attributes and this is the vehicle you wanted. So what we're going to do is build up an educational system so you walk away and know exactly what it is that you're doing, what you're using
because up until this point, you don't have a plan on how to get debt free. You don't have a plan on how to pay for cash for everything. You don't know where your money is at, if it's going to be there in retirement. You don't know if you're going to have enough money and income in retirement. You don't know what age you can retire. So the vehicle that you chose will allow us to do all of those things, but I want you to be educated on it. So let's go through a couple different things. What is it that you are looking for? And this is where I kind of just, there's really no set pattern from here. If the client says, well, John, just tell me about life insurance, this is where you go through here in the manner that you feel most comfortable on how to build or explain to them what cash value life insurance is. I have a bunch of different methodologies, but here's the key part to this. I want them to be able to go through and answer all the different questions about life insurance after they get educated on it. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what I want you to do is I want you to look at this plan again. You've got the picture. I want you to go home and read the book. And I want you to come back. In our next appointment, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through and answer. I want you to go research whole life insurance and index life insurance. I know this really cool thing. Dave Ramsey talks about whole life insurance. He actually calls it evil. 6 times in his book, he calls whole life insurance evil. Why? It's really cool. Because it only guarantees 6% rate of return for life. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. He wrote the book in 1991. Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you could get a guaranteed 6% for the rest of your life, grows tax-free, comes out tax-free, and there's no penalty for withdrawal out of using that vehicle, how does that sound to you? What do they say every time? Oh yeah, we'll take 6%. Remember, he wrote the book in 91. 91 to like 97, the stock market had that weird curve where it was almost vertical. And so I just tell my clients, look, he wrote the book during that time. He also says in his book that he doesn't brag about, but I listen to his show all the time. He says in his book, and he says it still on his radio program, you should have an advisor. And if that advisor is not making you 12% rate of return per year, you should fire him. How many advisors do you think get fired by Dave Ramsey people? Every one of them, because the setup is way impossible. Don't use life insurance because it guarantees 6% rate of return, and use their endorsed local providers, their ELPs, and they'll get you, or Smart Advisor they call them now. The Smart Advisors, they'll get you 12% rate of return. They can't. They can't endorse that, and they can't make that claim anymore. The federal government, Securities and Exchange, stepped in and said, you can't say that. And you can't approve of somebody or endorse somebody based on their returns that they get in the market. That's illegal, because no advisor can guarantee a rate of return in the market. So Dave Ramsey got slapped on the wrist, and they said, you can't say that anymore. Here's my point. I don't care what he says. But what I do love is he called life insurance evil for the very reason that 100% of every client I meet with wants it. My clients want a 6% rate of return, and I'll prove to you why you want a 6% rate of return. So what I want you to do, Mom and Dad, 2 choices. One, we can forge forward right now, and we can go through. If you have any questions, we can answer any and all questions you have, or you can go home and read about it. And when you go on the internet, there's 1.7 million hits when you put in whole life insurance. 800,000 of them will say they hate life insurance, hate it. It's the most horrible product in the world. 900,000 will say it's the greatest product ever created. I want you to think about this. Who are the 800,000 people out there saying that whole life insurance is horrible? The consumer or the broker? The consumer would never complain about a whole life policy because it does what Dave Ramsey says it does. It gives you a 6% rate of return every year. Who's going to complain about that? I'll prove it. A lot of my clients will come in, and when we're going through the fact finder, this part, and we're collecting all this information, it's really funny. They'll go, oh, and by the way, Yeah, Mike's dad, when he was 18, his dad bought him a whole life policy. We still put $50 a month into it. And I said, oh my gosh, you can prove everything right here. What are you, 48 years old? So you've been adding to it for 30 years. So 30 years, you put in $50 a month. So that's 600 times 30. You put in $18,000. What do you have for cash value right now? I don't know, I think like $30,000. And what's the death benefit? I don't know, it's like $200,000. And I said, okay, I want you to think about this. You put in $18,000 over the course of 30 years. It's now worth $30,000. It's probably worth more than that, but let's just say $30,000, so it's almost doubled. And you have $200,000 of life insurance. So how much did the life insurance end up costing you? If everything you put into it, you got back, and it actually grew almost twice as big, and that money in there comes out tax-free, tell me how that's a bad deal. And I bet when the policy was built, it was probably a $50,000 life insurance policy, and the value of the death benefit grew to over $200,000. So let me ask you this. If you could give somebody $18,000 and you get $200,000, how many times would you do that over and over again? So be careful when you get advice from other people. It might not always be in your best interest. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, I love it when you ask me questions. So why don't you do this? The other side of the coin, those other 900,000 people that love whole life insurance, read the stories. Guess who those are from? Those are from the consumers talking about, and a majority of them are this. I don't understand why Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey talk about how much they hate whole life insurance when if it weren't for whole life insurance, I would never be able to do what I wanted to do. I'll give you some examples. J.C. Penney didn't have any money. The banks wouldn't lend him any money. He went to his whole life policy and borrowed the cash out of it to start J.C. Penney. Walt Disney, he went through, I don't know, hundreds of banks and people that would have given him money. He went to his life insurance to get it. There's that kitchen thing where people they sell products at home shows, and it has a huge office now. It's so funny. They couldn't get a loan, and they started that multi-level marketing where you do the parties at the house, and you know what I'm talking about. They started it with it. So one of the things that I'm going to tell you is to listen to the people that have actually used the product. Research this. In the crash of 2009, the federal government went and found TARP money to bail out the banks for all of the things that they did. Find out where they actually went to go borrow the money, who they borrowed it from. You'll be surprised. Secondly, when the recovery occurred, go find out what amount of whole life insurance Wells Fargo has, Chase Bank. They have billions of dollars of whole life insurance as a vehicle to hold their money. Why? Go research that. And I say this stuff to my clients all the time. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you're going to find 900,000 hits on there that are from clients, consumers that love whole life insurance. And you're going to find other side of it, 800,000 people that absolutely hate whole life insurance. Read those. They're almost always from the brokers. I don't know why they hate whole life insurance or index life insurance. I can explain it to you. I can explain it to you, and if you want to, we'll go over that. But here's the reality. You built a stress test. This is the only vehicle you don't have, and it's the only one that met all of the criterion of what you wanted. Why didn't you have it? Why didn't your advisor that you have currently bring this up to your attention? It doesn't matter now. Now we know it's available. Now we know we can put your whole 360 plan into it, and your plan, once it's in that vehicle, can never be broken. It's the coolest thing in the world. So that's the end of this appointment, Mom and Dad. Let's schedule an appointment in a couple of days, and in that, what we're going to do is we're going to call this the Rip It Apart plan. I want you to come back with every different scenario that you could think of why you wouldn't want to use this, or if you do what 90% of all my clients do, they come back and they say, you know what, John, we're ready to go. Let's do this.
And I'm presuming that's what's going to happen with you. But why don't you go back through? I'm going to take all this stuff. I'm going to put it together for you, and we'll go through it. And I'm going to presume that you're probably going to want to move forward. So you have to qualify for life insurance. So we're going to have some applications. We're going to want to do the annuity rollover from your IRA to get that money into the annuities. So why don't you take this stuff home, take the book, read it, and we'll get back together. So when we're done, literally that's the end of the appointment. When we do the next appointment, all we're going to really do is go through and answer the objections of what they could have. Hey, you know what? I don't understand. You know, Dave Ramsey's pretty adamant. Can you explain to me why, you think whole life is good? Or, we looked at this whole thing and, we're looking at, we don't want to do the mortgage and, we heard this. How much does whole life insurance cost? And I read that and I saw it's really expensive, and a brokerage account is free. And so we'll go through and we'll discuss every part of it, any objections they have. And that's part of the beautiful part. On the video library that we have, we have every different scenario. And if we don't have every scenario, if there's one that I didn't hear about before, we'll create an opportunity for you to watch a video on how to overcome those objections as well. So that's it. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.